of the larger fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community, even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Welcome, beloved. Welcome to episode 420 in season 10 of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, known widely as the VUU and to some of our beloved as the VUU. It is really good to be with you today on behalf of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, your Unitarian Universalist congregation without borders or walls. Today, we are going to be talking about how we as individuals and as congregations can care for our transgender and non-binary beloved, and especially for families with transgender and non-binary children, um, and especially in those places where our transgender and non-binary beloved are actively facing danger and attack from our government. It will be a useful and rich and heavy show, and we have some wonderful guests that will join us in a moment. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, 1/3 of the lead ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, and I am joining you from Peekskill, New York, the land of the Kitchewan and Wappinger people, a little bit north of New York City, where it is the most absolutely glorious spring day you can imagine. The sun is shining. It is the perfect temperature. All of the windows in my house are open because the air outside is beautiful and momentarily pollen free because the trees haven't gotten the message that they're supposed to be blooming. And the daffodils and crocuses in my yard are blooming in their riot of early spring color that will soon be followed by the scents of the hyacinths and the lilacs. And so I am in absolute spring heaven here, and it is good to be with you. DC Fortune, how are you?
Hey, I am doing well. Good to see you, Michael and Jess. I am Reverend DC Fortune. I am coming to you live from Northumberland, Pennsylvania, in the ancestral home of the Susquehannock people, and on the banks of the Susquehanna River, where it is a glorious 72 degrees and sunshiny mostly. Like it's got that sort of thin gray stuff that wants to be a cloud but hasn't got that organized yet. But yeah, it's a beautiful day here. I too put the windows open in my house, but only the cats are home to enjoy that. So, but it's yeah, it is pre pollen, but post yuck. So this is like that little golden moment of warmth, but no allergies. Yeah. So, Jess, good to see you today. Welcome to the front of the show.
Hello, I'm Jess. I am a fat, non binary human with brown hair, brown glasses. I'm wearing my Trans Faith is Love shirt and my very brand new Trans Seminarian Leadership Cohort jacket.
Ooh.
I'm normally coming to you from Central Florida, the land of the Timucua and Seminole. I'm currently on the west coast of Central Florida in Tampa with my cohort right now. And the weather here is filled with pollen. If we start our mornings at 60 degrees and our afternoons are 80 degrees. So it is like the absolute worst time for your sinuses here in Florida. But when in the early morning and the late afternoon, it is gorgeous. And it's what traps everybody when they come visit Florida at this time. And then they don't leave. And then summer comes and they regret that.
And we are excited to have you here, Jess. Jess is also one of our Church of the Larger Fellowship Learning Fellows, our Learning Fellow for community life, and Jess is here as a guest and a host, both uh, because of their expertise and because they are part of our Church of the Larger Fellowship ministry team. So, welcome. Uh, we usually start the show with something of what we call UU Roundup. We didn't discuss what needed to be rounded up in the Unitarian Universalist world. Um, what cats or frogs or whatever it is are out there leaping around and causing mayhem right now. What's going on? Do
It's
we
search
know?
season. It's search season. Um,
For ministers?
ministers are looking for congregations, and congregations are looking for ministers. And we offer a prayer for everybody in whatever end of that formula they might be. Um, and also, we heard from the Ministerial Fellowship Committee yesterday in a letter to religious professionals. Michael, you know more about that than I do.
And this is funny since both DC and I are on the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, but neither
Right,
of us are the co-chairs of
right. But
that
you know
committee, so
more
we
about
didn't write the letter. Um, there's been a lot of anxiety expressed over changes in our ministerial fellowship system. We are moving to a system that prioritizes development over achievement, and the learning ministry over the learned ministry,
yeah,
and transparency over gatekeeping. And all of those things are good, and change brings anxiety. And so there's been anxiety expressed over the fact that people are being given their developmental feedback on their ministry, for example, instead of just, yay, you did it. And again, I think it's a good thing that everybody is given developmental feedback because all of us have growth to do,
yes.
and people really want to, yay, you did it. And so we're trying to be more, yay, you did it. Here's your developmental feedback. And I think it's good. It's a new era on the Ministerial Fellowship Committee where we're really trying to like open up the curtain. It's not even give people a peek behind the curtain. It's like we want to take the curtains down
Yeah,
and let the sunshine in,
yeah.
and let people in on who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. why the changes are happening and how they're happening. And so this letter was meant to address that. It's an open letter. So if you know someone who got it, who's a religious professional, they are welcome to share it with you. It was not sent out broadly to congregations. So if you are not involved in religious leadership and you don't actually care about this, that's okay too.
Right. I have seen it posted a couple of different places on Facebook. So
yeah, we've encouraged people to do that too.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. So that's what I've got for the roundup. I don't know if we've got other things going on. The MFC now has Cecilia Kingman as our
executive secretary.
Yep. Big fancy name. And then we've got somebody else.
Derek Jackson has joined the
right.
UUA staff as the director of ministerial credentialing, which is wonderful. And Derek is a great addition in that role because he will hold people in care as they are going through that process in a warm and wonderful and welcoming way.
Right.
I've worked with Derek for 21 years. 21 years since he was the facilitator of the Continental UU Young Adult Network. And I was the UUA's director of young adult and campus ministry. That's how far back we go, and it's good.
Back when you had to ride your dinosaur to Boston to meet people.
That's exactly right. Before, when Zoom was a beautiful dream.
Right. Yeah. Oh God.
And
too funny.
Before the VUU hit the airwaves. Jess, are there other things that we should note that are going on in Unitarian Universalism before we bring on our wonderful guests?
I think our wonderful guests are going to have some great things to share with us.
Yeah, I think so too. So we are so super pleased to have on today Cameron Young, Adrian Ballou, and Ayanna Kafi. Cameron is a lifelong Texan and Unitarian Universalist. They serve on the congregational life staff for the southern region of the UUA, having previously served as a lifespan religious educator, and they're finishing their Masters of Divinity. Adrian is the UUA's LGBTQ and Gender Justice Programs Coordinator for our UUA headquarters. They started the Uplift Trans and Non-Binary Plus monthly gatherings in October of 2020, and also are currently working on their Masters of Divinity degree. And Ayanna is a Black non-binary lifelong UU serving Unitarian Universalism as the Unitarian Universalist Association's Mosaic Project Manager. They are a mom, auntie, former preschool teacher, and a former director of religious education. We are super excited to have, and Darby says yay for that southern region representation. Yes, we are really super happy that our southern region is well represented, including with Jess on the VUU today, and it is not coincidental because the southern region is also home to many, though certainly not all, of the states that are actively and frighteningly coming after trans and non-binary folks.
Yep.
So we're really glad that the UUA is investing in ministries in the southern region to address that.
Yeah.
So Adrian, maybe you can start us off with talking about Uplift a little bit and telling folks what that is and how people can get connected to it.
Yeah. So, hi everybody. I'm Adrian. I use he or they pronouns, and I am, as Dr. Michael shared, working at the UUA as the LGBTQ and Gender Justice Coordinator. Uplift is a program that I started after I witnessed a beautiful mini version of what I hoped to create in the fall. At General Assembly in 2020, Jess Hunt, who is here on this call, as well as Reverend Stephen Lee Williams, Reverend Jay Sylvan and Shauna Eisenberg hosted one of the first, I know that there's probably not the first things of any of these things because there are so many different versions that I may not know about. But one of the first lay spaces for trans and non-binary folks at General Assembly. It was beautiful, it was transformative, and really cozy. And I was like, what if we got to do that all the time? I know that for a long time, so many of us have wanted there to be space for lay, trans, and non binary plus folks in our community. It's been a very clear need, and we haven't had the resources or the lack of obstacles, or at least less obstacles than usual, in order to make that happen. I know there's been different attempts for that to happen in the past, and it's long been a dream. Um, Uplift started because I was able to make that dream happen. I started at the UUA in the fall of 2020 as a ministerial intern in the Office of LGBTQ and Multicultural Ministries. I had proposed to my hiring team, which was Reverend Ashley Horan, Dr. Janice Marie Johnson, and Reverend Michael Crumpler, that I start this space. And they were like, yeah, do that for your internship. And that's how Uplift started. It's a space that's multi-generational for all trans and non-binary plus UUs and friends of UU, or even frenemies of UU. I mean, not all trans folks are friends of UU, but might still be happy to come to a UU-ish space. I know a lot of marginalized folks have complicated relationships with UUism because it has complicated relationships with us. And So it's a space that everybody is welcome to join, of any age whatsoever. Any gender identity that's not entirely cisgender is welcome. If you are completely cisgender and not wondering whether you might not be cisgender, this is not the space for you. We try to express it very expansively, but it can be confusing, I think, sometimes for folks. If you get confused and you show up as a cis person, you will be asked to leave, unless you're a cis person that's there in support of your transgender child, meaning your child is 13 or younger and you're there as a parent in the space, so to support their presence there. So the gatherings have been running now for almost 4 years, and because they're the only, well, now we have a pastoral space as well, but for a long time they were the only space that we had for trans and non-binary lay folks. We tried to do as much as possible in a 1 month thing without overwhelming people too much, which is of course a weird balance. So it's a mixture of spiritual space where we have some reflection or worshipy time. We have some time to connect with games or story time, or other activities. We often will do breakout groups where there's more of like a small group ministry, deeper sharing kind of vibe. Um, and sometimes we'll have guest speakers, which Michael actually has done, who's here on this call before.
I
Um,
have.
yeah, so that's the gatherings. It's a lovely space. There's about over 600 people who are in our community now. We can have anywhere from 20 to 80 people come on any given month. Usually more in the 20 end of things, although when we first started, there were a lot of folks coming in to see what it was like. And we now also offer a pastoral care space for anybody who is 18 or older, to come and get some spiritual care and support in a group with other trans and non-binary folks. The pastoral space is on the second Fridays of every month from September to June, and the gatherings are on the fourth Tuesdays of every month. And you can check out more information if you go to uua.org/LGBTQ/transNB. I think
Okay,
that's a little overview.
we will get that link into the chat. And because I don't like just saying someone directs this program without helping people understand what what that program is, Ayanna, I am wondering if you would tell us a little bit about the Mosaic project, and especially you can tell us more about what you are doing with the Mosaic Project to support our trans and non-binary beloved. That would be fabulous.
Hey y'all, Ayanna, Kafi, they, them. I'm a medium tone Black person wearing a white sweater, round gold glasses. My cloud of Black hair is tucked under a white beret with some zebra stripes. I'm so happy to be with y'all this morning. I just want to say that. I am coming to the end of my first year at the UUA. So I work as the Mosaic Project Manager, and that means a lot of things. And it's, as all of our work, it's fluid. It's meeting the moment as well as holding on to tradition. Before I get straight into the work, I will say that from where I was as an 8-year-old to the work I'm doing right now is a straight line. I grew up in the Thurman Hamer Ellington UU congregation here in Atlanta, and it was a intentionally Black congregation. I mean, we had everyone, but it was mostly Black folks. It was pulling from traditions from Africa, from our own lives and our own hearts. And now I get to do work that supports those kind of ministries, supports anti-racism in the UUA. So Mosaic is the current hub of anti-racism, outward-facing anti-racism at the UUA. We have a event coming up on Saturday, Mosaic Spring. You can find out about that at uua.org/mosaic. So the ministry is inherently anti-racist. However, as all of our ministry is, it's intersectional, it's multidimensional, it's complicated. I find that BIPOC UUism can be very queer. I find that the folks that I come in contact with in this work are very queer, and I find that the need for community around anti-racist initiatives can be very queer work. I love that. I don't think I was surprised by it, but it was something amazing to internalize on the job. I'll also say that my most important UU work is raising a agender Black UU youth. My kid is 16, and it's a weird time to be a parent. It's a weird time to be Black. It's a weird time to be queer, but the work is more important than ever. I feel like that was very vague, but also like specifically vague, intentionally vague. I just feel like the need is always fluid. And to meet the moment is, you know, one of the most important things that we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Cameron, I know you're on the congregational life staff in the southern region. Can you tell us a little more about what you're doing with the congregations there and the kinds of help that they're reaching out to you for?
Absolutely. So many of you may know the UUA is composed of 5 different regions. So Pacific Western region, Mid-America, New England region, Central East region. And I am in the Southern region, which extends from Texas to Florida, all the way up to Nashville, all the way down to Mexico and the Virgin Islands. Actually, we've got a few of our beloved congregations there. And so we support in our work, we have over 200 congregations in the Southern region, and we are the built-in support system for those congregations. And so we like to describe our work as guided by what we call the 4 C's. So coaching, we coach congregations to through anything that may come up, how to develop as an organization, how to become more inclusive as an organization, how to run a board meeting, how to have multi-generational worship. We coach, we connect congregations with one another. I see a congregation in Texas that may be experiencing something similar as a congregation in Mississippi. I put those board presidents in touch with one another. We companion. That's been a big thing, right? So our context has been in the Southern region means that we've experienced some hardships. Our congregations have experienced some hardships that are unique to where we are. We have a lot of threats, a lot of backlash from hate groups, a lot of hostile legislative bodies that have been scapegoating and trying to come down on our marginalized beloveds. And we bear witness to that. We've had congregations who come to us if they get a threat, if they get an attack. We sit with them through that time that can be tumultuous and traumatic. And we also provide resources in ways that they can keep themselves safe. And then the last one is challenging our congregations to become the best Unitarian Universalists they can be. And that's a piece I really love about my job, because I get to go into actually a lot of UU pulpits and say things that might get me in trouble if I were the parish minister at that place. But I have an employer in the UUA who supports that work of challenging. And I can we get to deliver some hard truths sometimes. And so not all marginalized folks, whether that's trans or Black, Indigenous people of color, like to necessarily do that work as part of their ministry, but that is a ministry I'm called to, is supporting trans folks in our congregations, trans families, trans children. And one of the biggest joys for me is when I get to go to some of these congregations and be like an old non-binary trans person and sort of have a voice of authority, and like the joy that I see from young trans youth, or just from youth in general, that they get to see somebody who has been legitimized in that way, is remarkable. It's one of the most rewarding pieces of my job. They're like, "Oh, you're trans and you're old and you're doing the thing." It's so important for me, and it keeps me going in this work. So we're going to talk about some of the programs that we offer later, specifically geared towards trans people in our congregations. But that is a particular area of passion for me. And thanks for having me on.
Well, speaking a little bit more about what we can offer our families and our congregations, I know as a trans UU in the South with a trans child in the South, it's a challenge. And a lot of our congregations aren't necessarily always the safest places for us either. And that's a challenge, especially in this time when our legislation is trying to alienate us and separate us and bust up our community. to have a place to come together is rare for us. And so what are some things, I know Adrian has mentioned some, Cameron's alluded to some, Ayanna's alluded to some, that we can look forward to with our congregations and moving forward to support our families and our community more that may not necessarily be inside our buildings right now?
I'm happy to jump in on that one. So this past year, we've offered through Congregational Life, we offered a webinar called Support for Trans Families, and we brought in an amazing array of guest speakers, including Reverend Sarah Millspaw and Reverend Mr. Barb Grieve, who have now published their a new chapter in the book Injustice in the Care of Souls, on pastoral care with trans people. There was another version of it, but it was like 20 years old, and so we invited them on and talked about pastoral care with trans people. We talked a little bit about safety. So that had about 125 participants, and because of its popularity, we'll probably be offering it again sometime in the fall. And that really covers every avenue of resourcing. Well, we can't say every, but pastoral care, safety, structural support, public witness. We had Reverend Jamie Yandel from the organizing strategy team come on and talk about advocacy in the public sphere. There's also, and we'll get you the links for this, there's a webinar on the UU Institute called Threats from Without and Care from Within. And that is specifically geared towards safety in congregations that are under threat or feel that they may be under threat from hate groups and just a general hostile climate. So that is easy to access, and there's a lot of good information from our UUA safety team there. And the last thing I want to lift up is an event that is coming up Saturday, April 27th, that is called Building Beloved Community Beyond the Binary. And this was an event that was started by this wonderful congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Syracuse. So there, as they describe it, it is a day of creating community with transgender, non-binary folks and our allies. It's a chance to gather, laugh, create joy, and find partnerships in the community. So it's UU oriented, but it's open to the community. And our folks at Syracuse realized that we need this stuff in the South. So they were very generous in sharing this event with us. And so now it is going to be a multi-site event. So we have four Southern UU congregations participating, one in Austin, one in Orlando, one in Charlotte, one in Nashville. But it's going to be multi-site, hybrid, easy to access online. And we are going to sing. We're going to share, there's going to be workshops, and we've got like a really wonderful drag king keynote speaker that I'm looking forward to. So named Buck Wild. So a Texas drag king. So it is, thanks for asking, DC. So the date is April 27th. And if you live in any of those places, you can attend in person, but I believe there will be ways to attend online, and we want this to become a yearly thing.
Awesome. Cameron, can you put the link into our chat, and Lucretia will push that out to Facebook and YouTube, and we'll get it pegged to our podcast as well. That would be awesome. Thank you. So don't let me stop you if there were other things you wanted to talk about.
I'm good. That was long-winded, so I should slow myself down. I've had a lot of coffee right now.
I can share some more resources just to continue to flood you with lots of different ways you can get involved and resources you can have. I just put a link in our chat, which I know will get shared shortly with y'all, of a resource roundup that I have been curating on the UUA site. Please check this resource out. It will get updated intermittently. So, like, if there are things that you want to add to this, let me know. For the most part, these are resources that are UU specific and also trans or non binary focused in some way. At the bottom of the page is also a list of some crisis resources that are separated out into folks who will and will not call the police if you call them and are in imminent danger. So please check that out. I feel like partly in some ways we should have a separate crisis line page, but I also like having those resources all in one place. It just feels a little weird until people just scroll to the bottom. So maybe I'll keep it at the top at some point. But right now it's at the bottom of the page. The other resources that we have are a list of various programs that we have available here at our UUA, and some written resources. When I first started at the UUA, I was surprised to find in various little corners of our UUA website a variety of helpful resources that folks have worked on all over the place. And some people who I don't know, some people who I do. A lot of these are don't have a byline. And some had been uploaded, 15 or more years ago, but are still useful and relevant. There's a list of questions you and your congregation can ask yourself to do your own initial inventory of how trans inclusive you are. I recommend asking those questions alongside a consultant team. And if you'd like to have a consultant team, there are a whole number of professionals that any one of us could recommend. There are at least 2 organizations I know of that do consulting within our UU universe, Transforming Hearts Collective and CBBL's Justice and Peace Consulting, although there could be additional ones I don't know of. Please chime in, everybody else, if there are more folks you know that you want to give a shout out to. And so there's a whole bunch of various helpful resources here, including one about supporting trans and non-binary youth in your congregation, a resource for making your bathrooms gender neutral, which can be a contentious issue anywhere, including in our congregations. And this is a resource that helps you navigate all those questions and concerns. There's also an action of immediate witness that we passed in 2021 at General Assembly that's called Defend and Advocate with Transgender, Non-Binary, and Intersex Communities. So if you want a resource that says, yes, UUs have said that we care about this officially, check that AIW out. There's a lot of specific calls to action there. There are a whole bunch of training videos that either our office or Side with Love has produced. And those are all posted in one place on this webpage. And then there are the crisis resources. I need to update with some additional resources that have come up in the past few months, but that's what's there right now. And please do check those things out. I know it's a long list of links, but there's a lot of useful stuff in there that may answer questions that you have. Those were promoted resources at the time, but there's a lot of times and not everybody sees all the resources that get put out on all the things. So I hope that that's useful.
Yeah, we are really super glad to have resources listed here and linked in our chats. We are assuming that people will be listening to the show and downloading it who are religious educators, who are ministers, who are lay leaders in congregations that need those resources in places where they're easily accessed. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I forgot to mention one other thing. Sorry, y'all. At General Assembly this year, which will be virtual, me, Reverend Jamie Yandel, and Heather Vickery, along with a team of folks that is yet to be assembled, and may include some people on this call that I haven't asked yet. I'm not sure. Depends on if y'all say yes. But we will be having a trans cohort / trans track that's open to anybody, whether you're trans or not, that's focused on responding to the times that we're in, supporting trans and non-binary folks with the onslaught of anti-trans legislation that's happening. Oh, and Jamie's here. Yay. Maybe Jamie will talk more about this. I'm so excited.
It's like Beetlejuice. You say their name 3 times and they appear. So we have an extra surprise guest, the wonderful Reverend Jamie Yandel
Yay,
is
I'm so
joining
glad
us.
to make it.
And Jamie, do you want to introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about what you offer from our UUA headquarters?
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I was actually working on my job, which is transgender support specialist. And there was an immediate need for somebody to be relocated. So I've been on the phone trying to find a host for them. So that's what I do primarily. And I work with other departments, and we're trying to create what we're calling, I don't know if you've already talked about it, a rainbow railroad to get folks out of, as we know, unsafe conditions into safer ones. And we're going through UUs who generally have our same values in mind to create a hosting sort of train so that they have safe places to land as they go wherever they are going, and a nice warm home cooked meal, and can avoid the unsafe circumstances of gas stations and some seedy hotels along the way.
And so, like, really wonderful that that our association is investing resources in the very hands-on work of saving people's lives who are in imminent danger. And I want to hold that up. And so if I were a minister in a congregation, and one of my congregants, I am a minister in a congregation, but my congregants are all over the world. If one of my congregants at CLF said, I'm in Florida or Texas or Oklahoma or one of the places where people are in imminent danger and I need to get out, how might one access something like that?
You can go to pinkhaven.org and you can find some contacts there. You can email me. It's Yandle. It's Y as in Yahtzee, ANDLE. It's just like handle, but with a Y instead of an H, at UUA.org. And I will connect you with whoever. There's a lot of people working behind the scenes that I can't name for obvious safety reasons, but I will connect you with the folks that you need to be connected to and explain everything that you need to know.
Thank you. So we were just we were just talking about the resources that are available to congregations and to individuals. Are there particular resources we want to highlight for parents of trans and non-binary youth? I know at least two of us here on the call today are parents of trans and non-binary youth, and there are a lot of folks out there who are are there particular resources that in the UUA, out of the UUA, that we would like to highlight for folks who are watching this or listening to it?
This is Adrian. Oh, Ayanna had to speak. Go ahead, Ayanna. I didn't mean like you had to. Like Ayanna wants to speak. Sorry.
So I have a complicated relationship with resources. I am a resource hoarder. I bookmark everything. I love to go back and just like go through all my resources. However, I think that we can get pretty in our heads about this kind of thing. You know, there obviously are an incredible amount of resources that were dropped in the chat. However, I want to encourage people that you are the resource. You know, the people who are hearing what I'm saying, you know, are obviously interested enough. So you have basically everything you need. You've got the heart for it. You have the will. And so the first thing is that first moment of contact. It's the first smile, it's the first welcome. And I think in our congregations, the welcome is the most impactful thing. That's the thing that we take with us. Even if you've been a member for years and years, you've grown up in this congregation, being greeted with genuine warmth and feeling seen, that's the lifesaver. That's what will do it for most of us. The majority of us really need to know that the space that they're in is a space that is going to unconditionally love them, is going to hold them as they grow and develop and mess up and become better from it and go through all the ages and stages. However, we mess up constantly, every day, all the time. And, I've been in a situation as a religious professional where I said, I can't do enough education. I can't be enough in myself to fix this entire moment. So I need a new space for a youth. So I will just name that the UUA has a youth group going. It reminds me a lot of my experience as a youth. We had the freedom to make youth group a reflection of who we are. The adults in the space are safety centered. They're people who are passionate about holding space and not about curating the space. The youth leaders are the ones who create the space, and that is YUP, YUUP. And I would suggest for anyone who is feeling like a youth in the congregation could use a little space that they could carve out and make their own, if they're not getting the support that they need in the home congregation, if they just need a little context around UUism, if they need some friends from all around, that's a really beautiful and affirming space that has been created. And I say that as a parent. I'm coming at YUP as a parent. I am not involved as more than a thought partner. So I'm over the moon that I have found it myself, and that my kid gets to flourish and be the weird, cool, brilliant person that they are, and just kind of like, I don't know, be accepted, feel the UUism that I feel. So yeah, I guess that's my takeaway, is that, you are the resource. If you got the love, you are the resource.
Well, and I think that goes back to Jess's question about people who don't even feel safe coming into our buildings, coming into our congregations. And so there's something that we have to do, whoever we are, as Unitarian Universalists, whatever gender identity we hold, whatever whatever positions we hold in our congregations or regions or whatever, there's something that we have to do. And I use that "we" very broadly to mean Unitarian Universalists, to make our spaces safe and safer. They'll never be safer spaces, and to let people know that that love exists in our space. So I appreciate that, Ayanna.
I can.
DC
Oh,
looks like he's trying to say something, and he's muted. You gotta unmute yourself, DC. Or Lucretia has to unmute you.
All right, there we go. Oh, too many
There we
buttons. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I shall claim oldness and antagonism with tech. Anyway, but I'm thinking about, there are a lot of us that are in small congregations where we like to think that our kids they have the freedom, they have the space, they have the room, they have the affirmation and love and support, and still they might not be ready for stuff, for like the whole church community to know, because then they will be set upon like as though by a litter of golden retriever puppies, with all of the love and support, which is like great if that's what you want, but not so much, if you just want to sort of dip your toe into things. And as the minister, I am way too old to be cool. And the other resources available in this part of the world would be parents, our DRE, our youth leaders. That's still a really small circle. Sometimes it's safer to share secrets with people you don't see in the cafeteria at lunch every day. So if there's a link for that youth group, can we make sure we get that? Because that's going to be a lifesaver for a lot of us in small congregations where kids need somebody who's not mom, or not the minister who's like, is out and trans, but still, they believe I'm a dinosaur. So, yeah. All right. I'm sorry. Now, Cameron, go ahead. You were up next.
So yeah, just a couple of things that I can share. Sometimes, resource can be the pathway to relationship, and sometimes it's vice versa. Those things work in mutually supportive ways. So like a couple of stories that I can share. One, I was working with a congregation who had offered an OWL program, and unfortunately, the OWL facilitators were not had not been retrained since like the 90s, and were not unfortunately up to date with language, with inclusive language, and unfortunately, that I think that alienated some trans youth and trans families in the congregation. And they called us, they called regional staff, and we had to come in and do some listening sessions. And it stinks that this is sort of what led to that, but part of those listening sessions were education around the harm that can come with a lack of sensitivity around language and inclusion. And then it fed back into resourcing that experience, because we were able to find pathways for that congregation to get new and updated OWL training, and to refer them to Alex Capitan and Michael Slack's program, and we were able to help them recommit to being the inclusive congregation that they say they are. So it wasn't without the harm that was caused in the first place, but we are a covenantal people, and we covenant and re-covenant. We break our vows thousands of times, and then we keep going, right? And then, another thing I can share is that, Adrian's Uplift program does have a youth track. Sometimes it's sporadically attended. But we work together and we talk, and Adrian or Reverend Michael Crumpler may find situations where either trans youth or trans adults may be feeling hostility in their congregations. They can call us, and we can start working with those congregations on being better UUs. And we've done that, right? We've gone in and done a lot of work with congregations at the referral from Uplift. So it's pathways into relationship.
Thank you so much. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I'm aware that we have 4 guests, and Jess, you might want to say some things as we're wrapping up. So I want to make sure you all have a chance to mention anything else that you'd like our viewers and listeners to know about. And we're happy to have you back on the show if new things develop, if new ways of looking at this. If we want to have a show just based on that conversation about the heart, like how it is that we let our hearts grow and transform, we'll have a show just on that. We won't talk about links. So Jamie, I know that there was something you wanted to mention before we left.
Jess Hunt is incredible, and
Yes.
that's what I want to mention. And also add to that we are working on what we're calling loosely right now trans care packages. And it's going to be a matching program that if you have trans youth in your congregation and you would like to send those, or vice versa, we're going to have a matching program and a website that's coming. Lots of departments are going to be involved in this: lifespan education, Adrian's department, I'm probably going to tap you, Cameron, like just different people so that we can actually get this off the ground, because it's going to cost a lot of money. So we're going to maybe do a Faithify as well to make sure this happens, because that is a tangible thing that congregations all over can help. But I know that some of our northern congregations are like, how can we help the South? And so this is a tangible way to connect congregations to congregations. And it is open to, even if you don't attend the congregation, you get the care package to your house. All the names are anonymous. It's done through the DREs or whoever lay leader is in charge of the congregation, or whoever's working on it in the different congregations. And so I just wanted to sneak peek and let you all know that that project is coming. I don't have a time frame because we're still right in the middle of it, but I just wanted to let you know, if you heard that rumor, it's true. And we will have a website and a launch date and all that coming.
Yay.
We sent a pilot package to my daughter, and I videoed her opening it, and it was the most precious thing ever. And she was just so thrilled to feel seen. We don't have a brick and mortar that she can attend due to many reasons. But so it was really nice to see her feel a part of a bigger community that has her and holds her through all of this. And it was wonderful as me as a parent to see that. And so I just really encourage you to do lots of things that show support. Wear your shirts, hang the flags, be the unspoken and spoken voice for so many of us who are tired of asking for it. And I know we're not the only ones.
Thank you, Jess. I'm glad your daughter got a trans care package.
This is Adrian, and I just wanted to say so many things, but I know that we'll have time another time for all of them. I briefly wanted to leave you with the knowledge that you are not alone in this work, that there are so many of us who care and are doing everything in our power, and probably a little bit more or a lot more than we really should be stretching ourselves to try to show up and support all of us in this time and space. There's a place for you to join us, and there's a place for you to be held and supported in community. And yes, it's imperfect. And yes, you have so much more work to do to support trans folks properly. And we're here. We're here. And I want you to know that we know that these resources are both a lot and not enough. And we keep on working to make sure that we can serve everybody's needs as best as possible. Please do reach out if you need anything. My email is aballou@uua.org. I'm happy to send you to the right person if it's not me, or tell you it would be nice if we had a person for that. But if you want to talk to me, I'm around.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
And Ayanna, Cameron, did you have any last words briefly before we end our show?
No words, only love.
Okay. We're good with
Thank
that. We are good with love. And love to all of our guests, and to
Yes.
Jess, our guest host, and to all of you out there in VUU land, religious educators, ministers, lay leaders, people with big hearts, families with trans folks in them, whoever it is that's listening to us, we send you our love on behalf of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, and we will see you next week on The VUU.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The VUU.